Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So today we're heading to Modern to check out a deck built around one of the more forgotten tribes, at least as far as Tournament Modern is concerned. This is White Knights. Recently took Gregory Shook to a top 8 finish at a SCG Modern IQ, so congrats to Gregory on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break it all down, if you enjoy this deck and want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So White Knights is a tribal deck, and it's an interesting one at that. So the deck has some issues. Knights only has one real 1-drop in Student of Warfare. It is a decent one, a 1/1 for 1, but on turn 2 it can potentially attack for 3 with First Strike if you're willing to dump all your mana into it on turn 2. And then in the late game it can become a 4/4 double strike, which is pretty impressive for a 1-drop. Knight of Meadowgrain and Knight of the White Orchid illuminate the upside and the downside of the Knight tribe. So the upside is essentially every Knight has First Strike, which means your deck is super good on defense against opposing ground creatures, because you can always just throw like 4 Knights in front of something and you're almost always going to kill it, and your creatures aren't going to take damage because First Strike deals damage first, so your creatures are unlikely to die. You're likely to be able to stop essentially any ground creature in the format. The downside, on the other hand, is that Knights are almost exclusively 2/2s. Regardless of how much you spend on them, they're likely to be a 2/2, so they're not very big. They get stonewalled by things like Tarmogoyf. If you're trying to go on the offense, they die to Pyroclasm. So that's kind of how Knights work. As far as Knight of Meadowgrain in specific, the upside is lifelink, reasonable. Knight of the White Orchid can occasionally search a plains out of your deck, which is nice when it happens. The deck gets a single Lord, so kind of the other downside of Knights is you only get one real Lord. The good news is Knight Exemplar is a really solid Lord, because not only does it give all of your Knights +1/+1, but also makes them indestructible. So this means a ton of the removal that's common in Modern, Abrupt Decays, Pyroclasms, Anger of the Gods, Supreme Verdicts, Terminates, all those cards just do nothing against your creatures once you get a Knight Exemplar. If you get 2, they protect each other, make them both indestructible, so it is a very powerful effect. The cards that get around this, most commonly, are Path to Exile and Dismember, since they kill creatures or deal with creatures in ways that doesn't really care about indestructibility, but it's still a very solid Lord. The deck also has some other powerful 3-drops that are somewhat resilient to removal, so if you can make these cards indestructible, there's not much that deals with them. Mirroring Crusader, Double Strike, Pro Green and Black. Paladin and Vec has First Strike and Pro Black and Red. These cards do naturally dodge a lot of removal. The downside is, the biggest downside of this entire deck is Path to Exile just wrecks everything. Like Mirroring Crusader, not going to get Dismembered, not going to get Terminated, but it will get Path to Exile. Paladin and Vec can't be Lightning Bolted, can't be Terminated, but it still gets hit by Path to Exile. But these are very powerful creatures, and the protection is a big upside. As far as finishers, we get Hero Bladehold, dodges Lightning Bolt, can attack for 7 essentially if you stack the triggers right with the tokens it makes, pumps up your entire team when it attacks. It's a very powerful creature. And then Elspeth Knight-Errant can pump up something, give it flying. Imagine a Mirroring Crusader, which already has double strike you +1, give it +3/+3 and flying. You can hit for 10 damage out of nowhere in the air. Brave the Elements is the last kind of finisher, but it does double duty. It can save your team from a Anger of the Gods by giving everything pro-red. Can also give your team pro-blue, for example, and swing your entire team past a bunch of blocking merfolk, so saves your creatures and also finishes the game. Things get a little weird with the removal. Path to Exile, only 1 copy. Instead we have 3 Celestial Flares. I'm guessing this is a budget choice. The weirder choice is a Suppression Bonds and 2 Oblivion Rings. They're both really cheap, so I don't know why you would go with a Suppression Bonds over the 3rd Oblivion Ring. And then, I don't know what the local meta look like at this tournament, but there are 4 main deck enchantment and artifact destruction spells, 2 disenchants, 2 revoke existence, so I don't know what's happening in the meta where this tournament took place. It seems really odd to have these spells in the main deck. If we played this deck, we would probably have to cut those out of the main deck. The biggest problem I see with the deck is only 18 lands. This deck, in my opinion, should have at least 22 lands. With 18 lands, you're looking at like an 8-whack deck, where you're playing all 1s and 2 drops super super low to the ground. This deck has 12 3-drops, has 5 4-drops. You really need more than 18 lands to make this work, so that's the other thing we'd probably have to change if we did end up playing this one, is up the land count a little bit so we can actually cast our stuff. In the sideboard, Celestial Purge helps against Liliana, also red creatures, Core Firewalker, trump card against burn decks, Kataki, great against Affinity, Relic of Progenitus for Dredge, and even like Snapcaster, Tarmogoyf, Delve decks, and Valorous Stance, another double duty card, can kill Tarmogoyf, can kill a Grimflayer once it's pumped up, also can protect a creature from a removal spell. And that is White Knights for Modern, and that's been our Instant Deck Tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.